Hi, my name is Courtney, and I'm here today to give you 5 reasons to read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. In case you don't know, this is a classic novel that combines capitalist, fascist, communist, psychoanalytic, and pseudo-scientific ideologies to bring about the end of history. Because, as is said by Henry Ford and is oft repeated within this text, history is bunk. The world is now a place where everyone is happy, ignorant, promiscuous, and most importantly, a consumer. And if they aren't, well, there's a drug for that. We follow a few people in this novel. One is an alpha who has begun questioning society, his lover who has drunk the Kool-Aid, if you know what I'm talking about, and an outsider who comes from a world similar to our own. This book was published in 1932. The first reason you should read this book is Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, honey. This book has been banned repeatedly for its graphic depictions of sex. We have a society that promotes promiscuity, that goes along with the saying, everyone belongs to everyone, which describes the feelies, which are pornographic movies where you can feel everything that's happening on screen. Soma is the drug part here. It's the drug that makes you happy and is free and is actually required that you take by the government. I'm going to read a quote here. If ever by some unlucky chance such a crevice of time should yawn in the solid substance of their distractions, there's always Soma, delicious Soma, half a gram for a half holiday, a gram for a weekend, 2 grams for a trip to the gorgeous east, 3 for a dark eternity on the moon. Rock and roll? Well, okay, maybe not quite like how we think about it, but music and rhythm do play a huge role in Brave New World. For example, there are a few songs, and I will read the lyrics out to you. Orgy, porgy, forward and fun, kiss the girls and make them one. Boys at one with girls at peace, orgy, porgy gives release. Or, hug me till you drug me, honey, kiss me till I'm in a coma. Hug me, honey, snugly, bunny, love's as good as Soma. I mean, it's nothing compared to, say, like Pillow Talk or S&M by Rihanna, but it's still quite risque for the 1930s. The second reason you should read this, if sex, drugs, and rock and roll is not enough for you, is because of the writing. This is an amazing example of literature and the written word. In the third chapter, it's one of my favorite chapters in all of literature, and I'm going to show you it here. Chapter 3. And it's actually 3 conversations happening at once in different locations, but we start out with large chunks of text before we get page breaks and moving on to the next one, but it eventually evolves so that you are just getting sentences, little snippets from each conversation, from different conversations. But what's amazing is that you think that would be incredibly confusing and difficult to read. It is actually quite easy to follow along in the conversations. Let me tell you again about the rhythm within the book. It is purposeful. There's lots of repetition, alliteration, consonants. They're all on point. I'm just going to read you the last sentence. It's not a spoiler. Here we go. Slowly, very slowly, like 2 unhurried compass needles, the feet turned towards the right. North, northeast, east, southeast, south, south, southwest, then paused, and after a few seconds turned as unhurriedly back towards the left. South, southwest, south, southeast, east. Just beauty. Beauty. Mwah. Love that. Not to mention that there's also some pretty fun words going on in here, such as orgy porgy, which I've already said, and I want you to try, take a second, and say this word in an angry voice. Try not to laugh. Centrifugal BumBlepuppy. Yes, awesome words. Third reason you should read Brave New World is because it's a dystopian. We all know how incredibly popular they are now. But this is a true dystopian in that it works as a warning for the future, for the present, instead of as just a vehicle for a teenaged heroine and love triangles. It actually started out as a parody of utopian societies, seen in particular the works of H.G. Wells, but eventually evolved into something more meaningful. And Huxley used the term negative utopia, which is a place that seems like a utopia. I mean, a place where everyone's happy. Who doesn't want to live there? You get everything provided for you. Everything's made to make you happy. You can do whatever you want, almost, until you take, a closer examination at it. So that's number 3 why you should read this. It's an awesome dystopian. The 4th reason, the penultimate reason you should read this, is because, well, I'm assuming you are a reader because you're watching a video about books. If you're not, congratulations on watching a video about books. If you're not a reader, that's pretty cool. But I'm hoping that you are, and that you understand the importance of reading. Huxley in this book argues that reading is important on both an individual level and on a societal level. For example, the character of John Savage grew up without a father figure in a pretty tough situation, but he found one. He found a teacher, he found a moral compass, he found life lessons in the works of Shakespeare. In fact, the title of the book is taken from The Tempest by Shakespeare. Oh, wonder how many goodly creatures are there here, how beauteous mankind is, oh, brave new world that has such people in it. Is the quote that it's taken from, but there are references to Shakespeare throughout this. And that's how it is on an individual level, but also on the societal level. Books are prohibited because, first of all, they're old, which means they're useless, which means, that they can't constantly be replaced. And most importantly, because they're beautiful. They distract you from new things, and they distract you from things that you have to constantly consume and renew. And besides that, they cause instability and critical thinking, which is not good in a dictatorship. And if those 4 reasons aren't enough, here's a 5th. This book is incredibly relevant to today. Now, 1984 is a good book. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people believe that what happened in 1984 in the book is happening in our life today. We see that with the NSA, with cameras everywhere, but let me tell you that I think our society is much more inclined towards the brave new world that Aldous Huxley writes about. So I did a whole video about this, and I'll link it down below because I don't want to jabber on and on about that. But basically it boils down to the government is forcing us to think or act in certain ways, is what 1984 posits. But in Brave New World, we have the population being too apathetic and absorbed by the pursuit of pleasure to care what the government is doing. I'm going to summarize this point, in case you don't want to watch that video, by quoting the great modern philosopher Neil Postman. He wrote a whole book about this called Amusing Ourselves to Death. And here's the quote. What Orwell feared were those who would ban books. What Huxley feared was that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who would want to read one. Orwell feared those who would deprive us of information. Huxley feared those who would give us so much that we would be reduced to passivity and egotism. Orwell feared the truth would be concealed from us. Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture preoccupied with some equivalent of the Feelies, the Orgy-Porgy, and the Centrifugal BumBlepuppy. As Huxley remarked in Brave New World Revisited, the civil libertarians and rationalists who are ever on alert to oppose tyranny failed to take into account man's almost infinite appetite for distractions. In 1984, people are controlled by inflicting pain. In Brave New World, people are controlled by inflicting pleasure. In short, Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us, and Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. So, if you read the book, you're pleasantly distracted by it. If you don't read the book, you are apathetic about it. Either way, Huxley has you nailed. Let me know how your reading of Brave New World goes, and thank you for watching.